Hey, what's up, world? Welcome to the 180 Drums podcast. My name is Mark Schroer, and I'm super amped up on today's podcast because we have Eman on with us. Eman is a killer drummer from the LA area, currently playing drums for Andy Grammer, and he's been regularly gigging since he was 13 years old. Crazy, right? Eman is going to teach us about building relationships in the music industry and why those relationships matter, along with some helpful tips like why to be a nice guy. Anyways, enough from me. Let's get to the goods. Please welcome Eman and Jake Nicole.
Guys, welcome to the 180 family. I have Eman on the phone with us now. Eman is not only the drummer for Andy Grammer, but this guy's just such a good dude. He's become a friend, I'd say almost overnight. We met at NAMM, got to know each other a little bit, and right away I was like, man, this guy's got a heart of gold. Great dude. So, bro, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Dude, thanks for having me. I definitely shouldn't be one of the guys here because I am a nobody. But I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. So
I love it. Humility. So he was just telling me, by the way, shouldn't be here. He was just playing at the Super Bowl. What was that, last weekend, 2 weekends ago? He was playing at an event that was just outside the Super Bowl, a big part of the event. So get out of here, man. You have been not only laying it down online. I've seen all your stuff online, but everybody at NAMM knew who you were. You're super connected. Shut your face.
Dude.
I love it.
I'm just trying to make people smile and sometimes play drums.
Dude, well, it's funny, man, because one thing I noticed was you were really connected, and I could tell that you had great relationships with everybody at NAMM. Even the last guest we had on the show, right away, you guys knew each other, so that's really cool. So tell me, man, like I'd love to pick your brain about relationships because I know that's something you're passionate about, and I know that that's something that has led you to where you are today. So, man, before we get into that, why don't you first maybe tell us a little bit about yourself in a way that I didn't?
All right. Well, I think I'm like a lot of guys nowadays. I either grew up playing in church or playing in some sort of environment like a church. You know, it doesn't have to be a Christian thing. My dad was a worship pastor. He was like a volunteer guy, and I would like run up to the kit when I was a little kid. So I would get there and, you know, I was like 2 or 3, and I'd just sit by the bass drum or sit by the snare and just watch the guy, whoever was playing then. And some days I would sit on and I could play beats. And my parents were kind of like, what? How does that happen? You've never had a lesson, whatever.
Cool.
And, you know, they nurtured that and started playing at the church a lot, eventually played there a lot. And then, you know, as things are in the church world, things change, people change. My folks decided to leave that place, and the opportunity came up for me to get like a working gig at 13 at a Baptist church, like a big white Baptist church. So there was like these huge choirs and orchestras, and I didn't know how to read. So I'd like memorize everything during the rehearsal and then play along. And, you know, you're talking like huge retardandos and like you got to watch the lead singer guy or you got to watch the conductor and you got to hit the cymbal at the right spot. And I think I just had a knack for following people.
Yeah.
And that led to me making a lot of friends that I still have there.
Wow.
And that's kind of where I met the musical director for Andy Grammer. Was at a church gig. I was a little older.
Now, where were you located at this time? You're living where?
Oh, I was born and raised in Los Angeles, in a suburb of Los Angeles called Glendora, California. If you are familiar with the way LA works, it's like there's the airport by the ocean, and you got like Santa Monica, then you got LA, then you got Hollywood a little bit northeast of that, and then you got Pasadena, and then 15 minutes past Pasadena, which is kind of known as the boonies when I was born, but now it's not. It's this little town called Glendora, and it's up against the foothills, and it's quiet, it's peaceful, and I was one of a few Hispanic kids amongst a lot of white people, so it was very cool.
Yeah, that's great.
Stuck out, so it was really awesome. But yeah, anyways, so I grew up there, and you know, very, very fortunate that my folks decided to move us out here instead of like growing up inner city or something like that.
Absolutely.
So I was able to like really get a different, better education. I know it sounds weird, but you know, the distractions are a lot less, and I was able to practice a lot because there was nobody around.
Cool.
So, Yeah. But
Dude,
that's
very
like I
cool.
was saying, that's where I met like at one of these church gigs when I was like 18. That's where I met Andy Grammer's bass player.
Okay.
So we've known each other for almost 15 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so we go way back.
So how old are you now, man?
I'm 29. I will be 30 in November.
Oh, exciting, dude. The big 3-0.
How old are you?
Oh shoot, you allowed to ask that?
I
Yeah,
have.
I'm man.
Oh, you're a baby. You're a
Oh,
baby.
friggin' guy. Here we go.
I'm sure you get that a lot from a lot of these
Oh,
guys.
I sure do, man. Actually, no, I don't because I don't tell anybody how old I am.
Ah,
So live on air, I'll blur it out. No one will know.
what a big old beep sound.
That's right. How's my microwave in the background? I have no idea how that happened. I
Oh,
apologize.
that's funny.
Dude, you know what? I'm looking right now at where Pasadena is on a map, and I unfortunately didn't make it that far northeast when I was in LA. But dude, like just so envious of growing up in a culture where, I feel like there's such an interesting something so interesting about LA, obviously. It's got such a personality. It's got a lot of things that aren't great, but it's got a lot of things that are, super
Oh
cool.
yeah,
So, what was it
yeah.
like growing up in Pasadena, man, and, being a part of the
Um,
music culture?
well, like I said, I was around music all the time, and though it was a little sheltering being growing up in church and whatnot, I feel that just because of being in the area, you would run into people like an Alex Acuna, or you'd run into like, oh, Dave Weckl's playing tonight as a 12-year-old, and that's your birthday present. You get to go watch Dave
Oh,
Weckl.
cool.
Or like if you're, I don't know, like in the middle of Arkansas, that might not necessarily happen, you know?
Mm,
So
absolutely.
just being even close enough, like, I mean, I'm 30 minutes away from smack dab in the middle of LA, and I'm only 20 minutes from Hollywood. So it's kind of like it was always there, and it was there when you needed it to be. And when you didn't want to be involved around with that stuff, you could just be living in your
That's
little town.
cool. That's
So
cool, man.
that's kind of and it's kind of how I still am today. It's like I like being in the city, but the second I can be in quiet, like I'm in my apartment right now,
Yes.
and it's dead and silent, and I
Oh,
love it.
dude,
So
you know what?
it's
I'm the same way, man. I think I love to step into the chaos of situations only when I know that I have an out that is a quiet place, that is a bit of like an escape, you know?
yeah, yeah,
I'm
definitely.
very much the same way. I would hate to live in the heart of downtown Los Angeles. I
Oh
wouldn't
man.
do that. You couldn't pay me to do that even. Yeah,
You it can be a little much, but some people thrive in that. I don't necessarily thrive in that, but
absolutely.
I'm
Yeah.
thankful that it's there. How about
Yeah. Definitely, it is for some people for sure, and that's awesome. So, dude, you grew up playing in the church, and when did you start to find yourself breaking out of that environment to actually playing in the quote unquote real world?
oh man, I would say like around 16 or 17, I started doing some like small time session work. Like my brother's about 10 years older than I am, and so
Oh, great.
he had just finished up like a recording technology class, or like he had his like degree in like recording, right? You go to school for that.
Yes.
And so he would work with producers, and he'd work with artists who didn't have money, and so that he'd be like, well, hey, my little brother can kind of play, how about you hire him,
You're like, bro, I can really play. Don't tell them I can kind of play.
no, but what was great was that it was, the time before like Beat Detective was around, before like layering samples was necessarily around. So like at like 13, 14, I would have to play with a click, and really have to play with a click, and not necessarily play with a click, like play around it and make it feel good with a click. So it's like looking back at that, it's kind of like, whoa, that never even happens today. Like everyone gets some sort of quantizing happening, or
Hmm.
you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
I was fortunate to have that experience that young, and really get, my pants pulled down in front of everybody, and then quickly have to figure out how do I make it better immediately. So
Hmm.
it was a really good learning experience. So I did a lot of that stuff when I was like 15, 16. Yeah, geez. That's a
Wow,
long
what
time
an
ago.
experience, man. Okay, so you did all that, and then describe how you ended up in the place you're at today, where you landed a great gig. You've played in every late night TV show. You've done it all, man. Um,
Yes. It's it'll kind of, you know, my thing is it's like everybody has to keep working at their craft, right? So eventually the right doors are going to open, but if you are a total a-hole while you're waiting for these doors to open, those doors will open, but they'll open for other people. And so I think everybody makes mistakes, and I'm sure I burn people, and I'm sure I've like hurt somebody, not intentionally, but like you might not play the right thing at the right time, or you might throw somebody under the bus inadvertently. And I knew early on that that was not cool. So I've always like tried my absolute best not to do that. And I would say that the reason I got here was, like I said earlier on, like I met Zach Rudolph, who's Andy's musical director now. We didn't know that at the time, right? We didn't even know who Andy was. When I was, it wasn't 18, it was before that. I was like 15, now that I think about it. Maybe even less, or maybe earlier than that. If I've known him for 50, I was like 14, 15 when I met him. And he had moved down here from Northern Cal to go to Christian University that's around the corner from us named Azusa Pacific. And we kind of got partnered up playing in church. And I still remember him not being thrilled that he was playing with a kid. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah.
They kind of, whoever was hit the tracks and we started playing, and it was like, okay, cool. Seal of approval. This kid's all right. He's not great, but he'll be fine.
Get out of here.
So it worked out. It totally worked out, and we continued to play around LA together and more church stuff. And then we kind of each went our own way and did our own thing. And when was it? Summer of 2013, I had been playing with some people around town doing some session work. And Andy's old drummer, this guy named Mike Baker, who you need to meet because that guy is awesome. Cool. That guy is just one of the sweetest dudes. He's playing for Gavin DeGraw now. Excuse me. He called me through being referenced by Zach. Was like, hey, dude, I got this this conflict going on with my schedule. Could you sub for me with Cody Simpson? And Cody Simpson's like a pop kid idol star. And he's like, unfortunately, there's no rehearsals, and it's in 2 weeks. Can you do it? I was like, yes.
Nice.
So I woodshedded for a few days and flew up to Canada, Toronto.
Come on. This is before you and I knew each other, obviously.
Yes. And it was in, what's that big center part of Toronto?
Air Canada Centre.
Exactly.
That's a pretty good first gig, my friend.
Yeah, so we went in. The musical director on that gig missed his flight for whatever reasons. So it was like me, the Pro Tools rig, the dancers, and Cody.
Wow.
And sound check. So we did it, and everyone was kind of feeling a little shaken up by it. Oh, and then in fact, they showed me the set list, and there was like 2 songs I had no idea existed.
Wow.
And so I like went back to the hotel room, quickly wrote out charts, note for note, found YouTube versions, wrote out the charts, prayed to God that it would work, and it did, and I killed it.
Nice.
I did a really good job, and I'm not afraid to say that. Like, I rarely make mistakes, so it's okay to say that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And, word circled back that, whoa, this guy, who is he? What is he doing? And why was he called? And Cody's like management walked up to me and basically was like, look, if this happens again, we're calling you. We're not even thinking about anyone else. And that ended up turning into like me playing with Cody for a year and a half until I decided to go play with Andy Grammer. So it was very, very cool of those guys to do that.
Yeah, man, absolutely. That's amazing. Dude, what were some of your biggest learning lessons in that process? Like, what do you think prepared you for all that?
I think a lot of it is when I was in school, like I slacked off a lot, and you'd always like put yourself in these positions where you'd have to react quickly and prepare yourself as fast as possible, and basically not show anybody that you kind of just pulled it together. And I think the older I started getting, the least amount of pressure I wanted to deal with. if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Like I
Yeah.
like pressure and it's cool and it's a fuel, right? It makes everyone better, I think. But if it's unnecessary pressure, I think it can hinder you from really performing at your top level. And so as soon as I got the tracks, and it was basically like a live show for the Cody thing, I put it in a Ableton. I chopped it up. I added click tracks. Like I went super hardcore, so I didn't have to think about like, oh, maybe there's 8 clicks before this song, or maybe he might sing this part differently. It's like, no, I tried to learn the music as if I was in rehearsals.
Oh,
Not,
amazing, man.
you know what I mean? Not like, yeah, I'll just listen to this in the car. It was like, no, like I have to go to this first gig and crush it.
Yes.
Not, I don't want them to worry about the drummer. Even though they are, and there's nothing you can do about that. Like that pressure is cool, but not the pressure of like, oh man, I didn't practice this song 10 times.
Absolutely.
You know? Like that to me is like not cool. So yeah, so I did a lot of that. I like literally wrote out every part that Mike played. And if you don't know how to write music, you can still write in the words of like
Yes.
what a drum fill sounds like, you know?
Absolutely. Well, that's funny because I was just earlier speaking with Lindsay Artcop, who mentioned that she was at a Nate Morton drum clinic, and what Nate does is he'll write things in like, he'll write in like Coldplay if it's like the bat do bat. It's
Oh
the
yeah.
clocks thing, right?
Nate Morton, what a
Dude.
lovely human being.
Isn't he such an amazing person?
Now, I'll be totally honest. So, I met Nate. He came in to do a clinic where I was going to college, and it was the first time meeting him. And this is the type of how my brain works, right? So, they say, Eman, you're responsible for making sure he's comfortable. Like if he needs a water, if he needs
nice.
coffee, if he needs a back rub, whatever that man needs, you're there. You're his pet. I was like, yeah, no problem. So they're like, here's his writer. I don't know what the hell a writer is. So I'm like, what? He wants like a 10, a 12, a 14, a 16, a 20 gong. Like he had all this stuff on there, right? And I was like, well, let me email him. I was like, dude, hey, this is what we have at the school. It was like a DW like jazz kit. He's like, oh, that's fine. He's like, just make sure there's like 3 toms. I was like, yeah, no problem. So I like set it up, and I'm like, I don't feel like this is right. So I go on his website. I look at his setups. I literally like look at like beyond his setup. I look like, okay, well that chair has to be like 3 feet tall. So like that's probably where he wants his crash. And like I got it pretty dialed down. Right?
Oh, nice.
He comes in, super nice, sits down. He goes, "Who set this up?" And I'm like, "Oh shit, it's terrible." He gets up and he gives me a big hug. He's like, "Dude, this is really comfortable. I don't have to worry about moving things. Thank you so much."
Oh wow.
So it's like, "Oh, cool." And then not having to do it at all, he goes, "If you ever need anything, let me know." And this is before like his clinics even start, before anything, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's Nate. And so
That
we
is
can,
Nate,
We can
yes.
talk about Nate all day long, and he's an incredible guy.
Nate is so funny, man, because I got to hang out with him and Steve-O. You know Steve Morrison?
Oh gosh, Steve.
You know what's so funny? Shout out to Steve Morrison with DTS. Is
Yeah,
Steve?
beautiful snare
He
drums.
just sent me a Facebook friend request. We had met when I was in LA, and I met him, and he was so gracious to invite me out to hang out with him and Nate, and just spend the evening with them. Watching The Voice, watching some of the rehearsals, and hanging out with Nate after, man. As well as Steve-O, just like the vibes. These guys are just some of the best dudes you've ever met.
Oh, yeah.
And Nate is exactly as you described him. Just like he's like,
Super
dude, he's like,
generous.
I can add you on Facebook, but he's like, do you want? He's like, I'll just phrase the question. Do you want to see my kids and my personal life, or do you want to be on my drum only page? I'm like, this guy, man,
Yeah.
he's such a good dude, right?
He's awesome. I mean, I
Yeah.
play him at Words with Friends, and he's kicking my ass right now. So
We talked about that a little bit because I know that he crushes that stuff, man. So.
he's killing me right
Too
now.
funny.
I'm not even gonna give you a score.
So man, tell me more about relationships, dude. Like, what were some of the biggest mistakes you made? And like, if you were to, you're 29, go back 9 years, what do you tell your 20-year-old self?
don't be a dick.
Love it, love it. Yeah,
Honestly, I think
And why do you think you acted, like a dick in moments? Where did that come from? What were you guarding or protecting?
I think it comes from a sense of like, I know what I want to do and I don't care if you're jumping along with me. And
Mm,
as like honest and as real and as good as that can be, the the side effects of that are you are screwing up potential greatness and relationships with other people just so that
right.
you can get your ultimate goal. And so like my ultimate goal, whatever that might be at that time, was like, I don't need you. I'm not going to be like, I'm not going to even entertain you. I'm just blowing right past you. And I think that was not good.
Yes, I
Like,
understand, man.
and especially in that time, like you got to think like I'm old enough where Facebook wasn't around, MySpace wasn't around, like all this stuff. When people talk about like really one-on-one interactions, that was happening. Like as a
Mm,
20-year-old, as a 18-year-old, like just really blowing through people just to be like, yeah, I'm gonna go on tour with so and so, and I'm gonna go do this, and I don't really care about you. Like, cool, great. I'm not gonna go check you out play at your jazz trio at the library because I don't want to see that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I do know what you mean, man. I do know
but
what
the
I
reality is, you need that.
Yeah, you totally do. And you want to have relationships with those people. I think it's tough because, to your defense, we grow up in a culture, our culture even 9 years ago was still so about like it's still so individual focused and it's
Oh
such a
yeah,
shame, right?
yeah, it's nuts.
So, just to defend you a little bit, I understand where that mentality came from, because it's a
Yeah.
dangerous one. So, how do you suggest, people combat that today? Like, what would you give as a recommendation to up and coming drummers to develop good relationships?
To me, I would say like no one is an enemy.
That's really
No
cool,
one
man.
is out to get you, especially in the drum community. Like, there's a couple guys I can think of where I've like maybe had a spit about or like we just didn't get along, right? Like there are people that you just don't get along with. But even still, like the second I find out that guy's on a gig, I'm the first guy to text and be like, dude, congratulations. Like that's a massive gig. Or, if you just had a baby, like, dude, amazing, congratulations on your baby. And those moments to me are like more important than whatever little quarrel you might have.
Oh, that's cool.
So like no one's out to get you, you know? Like
Hmm.
obviously be mindful of like not putting yourself in a situation where you're going to get screwed mentally, financially or whatever, but don't constantly think about that. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yeah, it really does, man.
And like I think that was the problem with 18, 19-year-old E-Man. It was like, oh man, this person, like, I've heard that they don't pay like the $75. Yeah, I'm not gonna
Right.
take the gig. I'm not gonna take the gig. But now it's like, who cares if they don't pay me? I still got to play drums, you know.
Totally,
And
man.
I feel like if I could go back and change all that, I'd be like, yeah, you should take the gig because the bass player or the guitar player on that gig now is the guitar player for Katy Perry, or now is the keyboard player that does all the session work. It's like you never know about that stuff.
Dude, you never know. And I
You
think
never know.
more often than not, you just want to say yes to stuff and be available because as a musician,
Exactly.
it is all relationships at the end of the day. And, if you take a $75 gig, I don't personally think it's going to look bad on you at the end of the day.
Oh no.
But when you're trying to earn your way, it is a little tempting to avoid feeling underappreciated. I mean, I understand where that comes from as well,
Yeah. Yeah, and now I'll take any gigs. I mean, I'm home, I have my priorities. Like if Andy calls us and it's like we got this gig tomorrow morning, which we do, but like if we didn't, yeah, hell yeah. And I'm free tonight, let's do it. Let's play. I don't need to sleep, you
Yeah.
know?
Where are you playing tomorrow morning?
Well, we're flying out tonight to Phoenix. We're doing event for the Phoenix Suns. And then
Awesome.
that'll be tomorrow. And then Saturday, you can probably watch this on TV.
Oh,
Let,
sweet.
let me look.
All
We're
right.
doing something for the NHL. We're headlining the NHL Outdoor Series
Sweet, man.
or
Well, why
Stadium
don't you
Series.
make sure you send me links for that stuff, after the fact or whatever, and I can be sure to
Yeah,
share that as well, depending on when this comes out. But, um, let me
yeah,
just say, man, I really appreciate that you're putting out such a positive influence in the community. I mean, even today, the information you shared, where like over preparing for gigs,
Hell
going
yeah.
in with the right attitude, the right mentality, never burning bridges, taking advantage of every opportunity. Like that is some powerful information, man.
Dude.
Is
Yeah.
there anything else that you feel like drummers are doing wrong these days where you'd like to interrupt maybe a bad habit or a bad it could
Oh
be they're
man.
playing or yeah, talk me through that one.
Jeez. Jeez, there's so many.
Pick
Just kidding. No.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah.
I think, and all I'm at fault at this. Like, I have worked so hard on my chops, and I want to show them off. I like everyone should be proud of their chops, and there comes a place in time where that can happen. But don't do it at your like pop gig. Like
Yes.
if you're on a cover band and you're playing a Justin Timberlake song, don't blow your chops all over that. Like, do a cover video and then do it. I mean, do something outside of that. Work is work, play is play. And
Oh, that's cool.
sometimes you can play at work. Like, trust me, if anyone gets to mess around on a gig, it's me. I pretty much get a solo every night,
Wow.
which is rare on a pop gig, right?
No kidding.
Yeah, it's awesome. I get to blow chunks because I suck.
Get out of here. This
But
guy.
you get to do that. You really get to do that, and
Sure, yeah.
it's fun. And you have to be prepared. Like if Andy were to say the first time I played with him, like, hey, all right, we're gonna give a solo to the drummer, and I just didn't do anything that was remarkable in any sense, like besides playing
Yes.
pocket. Probably not going to be on the gig. He wants to feel that the guy behind him has the horsepower of a Lamborghini, not a VW Beetle. You know what I mean?
Totally, man.
Like,
Yep.
and having that restraint is what's going to keep you on the gig, in my opinion. He knows that I can unleash if I want to, but I won't because I respect
dude.
his music. So, yeah, I say do it at the right time.
Yeah.
That would be my only advice. Like, if you have, let's say, if you have 15 minutes to show yourself in front of somebody, show them every side of you, but show them the one side of you that is like the most important side. And to me, musically, like playing pocket is probably it. You're going to keep working.
Oh, dude, great insight. Eman, we just had a half an hour with you. It flew by. Last question I'm going to ask you, man, is if you could send a message that would go to everybody in the world, including non-musicians, and it was going to land on their doorstep in the form of a postcard, you could be sending them a couple words, a sentence, and it's translated into their native language. What would be the message you'd want to share with the world, man?
Let's see. I was not expecting this, so give me like 2 seconds and I'll think about it.
Dude, definitely. And while he thinks about that, guys, if you want to go to 180drums.com/Eman, so EMAN, you can grab all the notes on the show there. You can definitely even read an article, a great article that Eman wrote that's talking all about his experience a little more in depth. He's got good dates of how things broke for Andy Grammer and how he was a part of that, and just a wealth of knowledge this guy is. So, dude, you got something for us there?
Yeah. I think it's really simple and it's awesome, and it would be like smile for the person next to you.
Oh, love it, man.
Yeah, because you don't know how they'll react, and that's the best part.
That
What
is
the
so
hell is wrong with
simple,
that guy?
man. Yeah. And if it's a cute girl, who knows what'll happen, man?
Exactly. You never know. You never know.
Man, dude, thank you so much for your time, bro. I can't wait to do this again.
Dude, thank you.
And we will do this again, man. So, and next time I'm in LA, we're gonna hang.
Please.
Done deal. E-man, bro, you're the best. Thanks for
All
being
right,
on the
brother.
show, man.
Thank you.
There you go, guys. E-Man just laying down the truth. Why to be a nice guy 101. People like hanging out with nice guys, and people hire nice guys. There you go. If you enjoyed the podcast today, please go rate us. If you want to see some highlights and some photos and videos and other stuff about E-Man, please go to 180drums.com/E-Man. Well, guys, that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please tune in next week for another killer podcast from 180 Drums.